Welcome to Studio 125 Multimedia Complex, where our mission is to provide a safe, positive platform for the community to share their life journeys to help the youth. I sit here today with Shaddrick Williams. How you doing today?
I'm all right. How you?
Fantastic, my man. So we're here to try to help the youth, to try to spread positive stories, life journeys. So we're going to start out by asking, where you from, brother?
Originally, I was born in Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
Okay.
I'm an Army brat, so I traveled around the world with my parents. Settled in Savannah, Georgia, around like '88. So I grew up there, for the most part, till I was about 19.
Okay, cool. So let's talk about your childhood. You grew up in a two-parent household?
Yes, sir.
Yeah? What's your childhood like when you were growing up?
My childhood, it was okay. The constant moving,
Right.
Being a military family, the constant moving, you don't really realize how much of a toll it takes on you, until you're of age to understand it. So the constant moving and not being, stable for a long period of time, it was aggravating.
Right.
But it was okay. I seen a lot of things, got a chance to see a lot of things, live in different countries. So, it was all right.
What's some of the countries you lived in?
I lived in Germany. I've actually lived in Germany quite a few different times.
Okay.
In my younger days, that's where I grew up at, in Germany. Schwabes-Gmünd, Heilbronn, New Ulm, Stuttgart, Frankfurt.
So when we spoke on the phone, you stated you moved out at a young age.
Yeah.
It was around 16 years old?
Correct.
Okay. What led to that?
Basically, man, and not to bash my father at all, because he had to learn just like I had to learn. But my father didn't grow up with a father.
Okay.
So he did the best he could, and the best that he thought he was doing. And him and I just couldn't coincide up under the same house.
Right.
He had rules that I didn't want to abide by. At the time, I thought they were stupid. So, I was given the ultimatum, either go by the rules or move out. So I moved out.
So to be 16 years old, to move out, how did you survive on your own?
I had got a job working at Checkers, and then my father helped me out. He didn't completely throw me away. I just wasn't under his roof anymore. So he helped me out, as much as he could with whatever I needed.
Okay. All right. So your friends at that time, the crowd that you were hanging around, 16, you're on your own. What was your circle like?
I didn't really have no circle at that time. I was living I had a girl that was living with me. So it was just me and her at that time.
Okay.
So I basically didn't do anything but work and come home.
Okay.
It wasn't until maybe a couple of years later that I started running into a circle of misfits.
Okay. Let's talk about that point in your life. Because around that time, say remember about 18, 19, you start running with these guys. So that's when you start to see a little trouble in your life. Got in trouble with the law.
Yeah, I started hanging out with some guys who I thought was my friends. I wouldn't call it a gang because we wasn't in no gang. We basically all was just in the same situation. Most of them was from one-parent homes. And I guess that's how we related to each other. So we started hanging out, getting into different things in the street. Couldn't really tell us nothing.
Okay. We're here to talk about you going and getting in trouble and end up landing in prison.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about what actually landed you there.
What actually landed me there was I was a part of something that I shouldn't have been. Seen some things that I didn't say nothing about, didn't try to stop nothing. People knew who I was, and when it all boiled down to it, I was the one that got caught up in it. I thought, the people were saying that they was my friends and they was going, they was going to ride with me. And, I thought I was keeping it street, keeping the G code by not telling on nobody.
Right.
It wasn't until, the judge gave me 20 years that I realized that G code wasn't talking about shit.
Talk about the trial. So you get in trouble, you got to go through trial. Do you feel like doing that trial you got a fair shot?
I know I didn't. At first I had a court-appointed attorney. I might have seen the guy 2 times out of the whole year I sat in the county jail. And the only thing he was talking about was he wasn't interested to know if I was innocent or not. He was just talking about, let's take a deal. The 2 times he came to see me, that's all he wanted to talk about was taking a deal.
Right.
He didn't really tell me, as far as the extent of how much time I was looking at him facing, that it had probably been in my best interest to take a deal. So he didn't represent me right. I don't think he was interested in doing it. He wasn't getting paid for it. So,
right.
He showed up. It's on the books that he showed up, and that was it.
All right. So looking back on that right now, thinking about just the trial, if you had advice for someone who may go through, what advice would you give them in dealing with the trial and taking these plea deals?
If you facing a lot of time, you got to sit back and just think about who gonna be there, or do you know for a fact who gonna be there? 20 years is a long time. 10 years is a long time. Hell, 2 days is a long time. But the thing about that is, if you facing a trial, man, they have a law library that you can go to, and you can look up different cases. And once you get a general idea of what you facing and what you can get and what you can't get, then you give yourself a little room. Mm-hmm. Don't depend on the lawyer to do all the work for you. You got to get out that cell, get off your ass, man, and think for self. That way when they come at you with these deals, or they come at you telling you they gonna do this and they gonna do that to you, you know what they can and what they can't do. Mm-hmm. So you're not being played or messed around with.
Yeah, because one thing I know is they don't really care about you being innocent or guilty. They care about their conviction numbers.
That's it.
They try to keep their numbers as high as they can. So a lot of our people get railroaded into taking these deals when they probably could have got a lighter sentence.
Yeah.
Or could have got out altogether. So now you get convicted. You get 20 years. When you arrived at prison, well, you was in jail for 2 years. And then they sent you.
Yeah.
So what was it like after okay, I'm not going home for 20 years, and you get to the prison? What is it like for a young adult?
Oh man, it was when I caught them 20 years, that didn't really register to me. It didn't cause me to feel no type of way. The pain on my mother's face sitting in the back row of that courtroom by herself is what fucked me up. And I cried from the courtroom to the back of the holding cell, and from the back of the holding cell till I got on the van. And when I got on the van, we ended up actually passing her, and I seen my mother out the window crying. And, you know, from that point on, I just had to wipe my face and be like, I'm going to see this lady again outside of these shackles.
Right.
So, you know, I told myself right then and there, man, it's whatever.
Wow. Couldn't imagine that feeling right there.
Yeah, it's a hell of a one.
So did you have support from family?
Yes. My whole family was supportive. My mom, my dad. My dad later on in years, but he was still there. And my sister. They didn't throw me off to the wolves. I think that was a bigger part of me surviving,
right,
knowing that I had people on the outside that was waiting on me.
Okay. What about the friends?
I never heard from them, didn't even see him. I actually ran into one of the guys that was supposed to be my best friend. I actually ran into him some years later in prison. And the first thing came out of his mouth was, because I left him, he ended up in the state that he ended up in. He was sprung out on crack. He had been married and divorced, and he was just like, it's your fault that I'm going through all this. I gave him a hug, man, and I ain't see him no more. I walked away from him.
He saw you years later, and he blamed you for the situation that he was in.
Yeah.
After they let you go down the road by yourself.
Exactly.
That's a lesson. That's a lesson that you can't pay for, man. That's a lot of people think you get the friends at these young ages, you're gonna be ride or die forever. It's situational is what I tell them. You know, if somebody get hit with, like you say, 20 years, everybody's gonna think about just themselves. You know, don't nobody wanna go down the road. So they're gonna think about, how can I save my own ass? Because I got a mom, I got a sister, I got kids.
Exactly.
So that's just a lesson that anyone listening, man, I really just hope that they listen to that part right there. You know, that street code, you know, it's cool. But if you look at any of the old gangster films, they always end up telling on each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even the Hitman. I saw, I forget his name, something the Bull from one of the Italian Mafia. After he told on everybody, you know. So you're in jail, you're young. How do you adjust? You're free, you're a young man, you're working, taking care of yourself, and now you're in prison, and you know that you're not going home for at least 20 years. How do you make that adjustment mentally, physically? Like, how was that process?
Okay, so let me tell you what happened to me when I first stepped on the compound, the prison compound. We were shackled. It was about 5 or 6 of us. We were shackled, you know, arms and feet. And they had a group called the CERT team, all dressed in all black. And they came out there and they told everybody to get on our knees. And they pulled out billy clubs and they told us, we don't know what you did to get here. We don't care. Just need you to know we're going to whoop your ass to get out of line around here. And you know what I mean? I'm thinking, okay, it's a scare tactic. But they actually whooped my ass. They picked me up and slammed me on my head 2 times. And they actually pushed me down a couple of flight of steps when they took me to the hole. This was my initiation to prison. I spent 80-something days in the box. This was my welcome to hell. So that put me in the mind frame from then on that, for one, I don't need anybody but myself as far as inside these walls.
Mm-hmm.
I can't trust nobody. I can't depend on nobody. You know, all I had was myself. And for 2, you know, I had put it in my mind that somebody else's mother's going to cry before mine cry again.
All right.
You know, I'm going to make it home. And if I don't make it home, you know, I'm going to have a good enough reason why I ain't. But I ain't going out bad.
So you getting there, right off the rip, shit gets real.
Yeah, it get real.
So that's just the guards.
Yeah.
That's just the guard. You're not even talking about the inmates at this point.
No, that was just the guards.
So as a teenager, you in here with grown men now. What's that like?
I think by that time, though, I was 20. I had turned 20, so I wasn't a teenager anymore. I think the thing that I had going for myself was I didn't come in there strutting around like I was bad. You know, I came in there, I kept to myself, you know, and all out of the streets are no different from prison. And prison is no different from streets. If you know how to move around in the streets, you can move around in prison.
Okay. What are some of the things that you have to do to survive?
For one, don't touch nobody else's stuff. Don't accept anything from nobody. For two, I mean, is if you proceed as a weak link, man, you better get you a knife or something because they're gonna come at you.
Right.
Either is it just to make you their bitch or want to have sex with you. It just all depends on the perception that you put out there for people to see.
I've heard stories. Never been to prison, of course. But I've heard stories about if you ever come in your cell and someone leave you something, don't accept it. Don't eat it. Or you're going to have to pay back in other ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not funny, man. And it's, you know, it sounds real silly to, you know, you walk in your cell and somebody left you a damn honey bun on your bed, you know, and they do it at the right time. They do it at a time when you fresh in there, you ain't got no money on the book. It might be the weekend, you hungry as hell, you know what I'm saying? And you think nothing of it. Oh, somebody fucking with me. And then a lady gave me a honey bun. And the minute you eat that honey bun, you have sold your soul. Because they got a saying, either fucking fight. And that's what's going to happen. About a 50-cent honey bun.
That's a hell of a life to have to live, bro. What are some of the things you do to kind of pass time to help with that time?
My first 10 years, maybe a little longer than that, I just buried my nose in a book. I think around that time, a lot of black authors was popping off. And that's what I did to pass my time, man. I read. And it could be times, man, where I would run through 2 books a day. You know, I just sit in my cell and read to pass time, to occupy my mind. After that, that kind of got a little old. I started working in the kitchen. Past my time, I became a dietitian in the kitchen. I learned how to bake. I learned how to do a little cooking in the kitchen. So, you know, I was finding ways to occupy my time.
Okay. Were you able to take any classes or get any certifications, GED programs?
Yeah, I took a lot of classes. I took anger management classes. I took self-awareness classes. I took so many classes, man, that I had counselors ask me, you know, why was I still in prison? You know, because when they looked at my file, they just couldn't understand it. To them, I was a model inmate. You know what I mean? Because I had so many classes I had to took. I got trades, building maintenance trade, janitorial trade, the dietitian. I got a certificate for being a dietitian. But all of that was just a piece of paper. It didn't mean nothing.
Was you able to use anything, any of these certificates and courses when you got out?
Absolutely not. It didn't mean anything. Mainly because they were so old.
Mm-hmm.
By the time I got out, they was over 10, 12 years old. So, yeah, I could have, somebody could tell that I knew the terminology, the book wise, as far as, how to do this and how to do that. Out of the book, I knew that, but actual hands-on, I didn't have any experience. And that's what they was looking for. They wasn't looking for somebody that knew it by the book. They was looking for somebody that had actual hands-on experience. So those certificates didn't serve me no purpose when I got out.
Okay. Well, you said earlier that later your dad was supporting you. What you mean by that?
For one, he always, my dad was like a background supporter. He supported through my mom.
Okay.
But I think he came to the realization later on, after about 10, 11 years of me being incarcerated, he began to worry, like, damn, when they gonna let you up out of here?
Mm-hmm.
How much time did they really give you? And I think that's that's kind of what sparked our relationship. What made our relationship start growing. Because he had an opportunity to be there for me, man, and he dropped the ball. For whatever reason. I can't tell you. For whatever reason he had, I'm unconcerned with it now. That's in the past, But that's just life.
What about the parole process? For those who don't know, what's that process?
As far as the parole, you never see a parole board. You never speak to anybody. You may know when you're coming up for parole. Most of the times you won't. The only time you'll know that you made parole is either you'll get legal mail. You get called out to legal mail, and you'll have a letter from the parole board stating that you've been granted parole. You don't actually get a chance to speak up for yourself or show that you've been doing this or doing that in prison, trying to better yourself or any of that.
Mm-hmm. So you get a letter, you just wait for them to say yes or no.
If you get that letter, then they basically have made that decision whether it's going to be a yay or a nay.
Yeah. That sucks. I only saw it on TV and I see that people sitting at the table and you go sit in front of them, so it's not like that anymore.
No.
That sucks. So how many times did you come up for parole before you got it?
I came up parole 1, 2. I made parole my third time.
Third time? What advice for someone who may be going down there, what advice would you give them to survive in prison?
I'm not going to give them no advice to survive in prison. I'm going to give them some advice so they can avoid prison.
Okay.
The thing that you want to do is, if you're going to be out here in the streets, know exactly what you're doing. Know exactly the consequences of your actions. And even knowing the consequences of your actions, it's still, to me, it ain't worth it. You lose your life and your soul going to prison. If you're not used to being alone, and most young kids ain't used to being alone, that's why they run in packs.
Right.
You're going to have to get used to being alone, because it's a lot of lonely nights in prison. A lot of me time for you to sit around and think about how you got there and what you did to get there. If I could go back and tell my younger self, man, a bit of advice, it would just be, man, it's a big world out there. And if you feel like you can't achieve or anything at the place that you live at or where you at, pick up and go, man. Cause where your opportunity at might not be where you at that time.
Right.
You could go somewhere and find an opportunity. But it is a lot of things that you can do in life besides wasted going to prison.
After doing 18 years, how do you make the transition back to the outside? So that's a long time. You got technology change. Pretty much the world in general just changes. How do you make that adjustment back?
I'm gonna tell you what helped me out a little bit. Is like I told you, prison is just like the street. Around like 2012, 2013, cell phones started coming into the prisons. So I was able to, learn how to use a cell phone in prison. So when I got out, I wasn't ignorant on using a cell phone. And to this day, it's probably the only technology I do use is a cell phone. I don't get on no computers. I'm not tech savvy like that or whatever. So that was what saved me as far as the phone go.
Right. So what was it like when you first got out?
I mean, when I first got out, man, it was an adjustment, man. I seen things, just to see the world. I didn't think that I'd see it again. Period. When somebody tell you 20 years, I just couldn't fathom 20 years. I couldn't fathom me doing 20 years and getting back out, seeing the world again. You know what I'm saying? I was expecting to see flying cars, but they didn't quite make it out there yet.
Not quite.
Yeah. So I mean, it was a shock, man. But I had good people surrounding me. For a couple of months, I stayed attached to my mom's hip, and after that, I kind of, was out there on my own. I didn't really know much. But I knew where I just come from, and I knew where I wasn't trying to go.
Right.
And I just so happened to look up, man, one day and meet my wife. And she took me up under her wing, man, and she knew what was going on with me. She knew the story. I had done told her up front, hey, I just got out of prison. This is what it is, And she took a chance with me, man, and she told me, she said, well, I got you.
Right. That's dope. How long were you out before you met your wife?
I think I was out like a year. Mine wasn't even that. I think it was like 8 or 9 months. Yeah, I got out in July 16. I met my wife in February 17.
Okay. Well, congratulations, brother. Congratulations on it all, for surviving it and being able to just be here to share the story. You know what I'm saying? I just couldn't imagine it. I was fortunate enough. I got in some trouble, but I got felony probation instead. And I was able to fight for custody and get my kids. So I couldn't imagine it going the other way because I was allowed to be the father in my kid's life, But I did make mistakes that should have landed me there.
Mm-hmm.
But God gave me some grace and he allowed me to meet my wife, get my kids, and build a family instead of going down there. I take my hats off to you for surviving that, man, and coming out stronger than ever. You know what I'm saying? And shout out to your wife for taking you in and just accepting everything,
Mm-hmm.
It takes a strong woman. So congratulations on all that, bro.
I do want to say, at the end, though, it's going to take the older generation to step up and help these young kids understand that the things y'all out there doing is only going to lead you in two places, the grave or in prison for a very long time. Both of them, you're going to be there for a while.
One of them you ain't coming back.
Yeah, well, both of them, you're going to be there for a while, right. You know, and neither one of them, you won't get a visit from your so-called friends. You know, if you're an OG, you know what these dudes call themselves, man. If you're not preaching, this young kid that's looking up to you, you're not making him go to school, go get a trade, teaching him how to be a respectable young man in the community. Then just go jump in Lake Lanier, man, because you're useless. You know what I'm saying? You leading these young boys down the wrong road. Right. You know what I mean? And it's going to be a time where we're going to need these young men. Right. They're going to have to take care of us. You know? And if they keep dying off the way they're dying off, man, we're not going to have, the black community is just, it ain't going to be a community. Right. You know, so it's time. It's been past time, but it's time right now, man, for every black man to, stop feeling like you ain't got nothing to do with that because that ain't your son or your child out there. You know, if you don't do nothing but just give him an encouraging word while you walk past him. You know what I'm saying? Say something encouraging to them when you walk past them. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? That can help. You know, just don't feel like you can't do nothing or it ain't your problem because it is your problem because the next person you end up killing might be you because you felt like it wasn't your problem. Yeah. Or one of your loved ones. Or one of your loved ones. Then now you got something to say. Yeah. Yeah, you're right, man. It should be our responsibility as the older black men in the community, older men, period. When I was going through my things, my troubles in the streets, there was an organization here in Augusta called Men Making a Difference. It was led by Deacon Willie Battle, passed away a few years ago. And he took a chance on me. He saw something I didn't see in myself. And the words that he would speak to me gave me confidence to change. Mm. I didn't have the confidence. I didn't even think that I could be anything else. But he believed in me, and he took me under his wing. He helped me get my GED. And once I did that, I went through the program. That's when I fell in love with giving back. And I wanted to help somebody like he helped me, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have had my family. I wouldn't have got my GED. I wouldn't have got custody of my kids. You know, that process kind of led everything to this point. So having some positive black role models in your life or just in the community, period, is pivotal. That's what we're trying to build here at Studio 125, to show something positive, show that there is somewhere you can go to get some guidance. And I ask anybody that's listening to this right now, if you are a man of age, we need help. You know, we need more men down to build a circle to when these guys have nowhere else to go, they can come to us. You know, right now, I can't point out nowhere here in Augusta that if you're a young man, you can go get support. Just say, like, you in the street life, I don't want to do this anymore, but I don't know anything else. I don't know one place that we can go. Right now, I have a son. He's 17, and he's just unruly. And the only help we ever got is they advised, just lock him up. And because we didn't want to give him a criminal history, there's absolutely no help for us. So we want to take it on our own shoulders and say, okay, we'll build it ourselves then. That way, the generation that's coming up will have something, because we didn't have that support as parents. So I think that's amazing, man. I think that's amazing. So that's all I have, my brother. I really appreciate you coming. Yeah, I appreciate you having me. I appreciate you coming, man. And I hope that we can work together and build this. I guarantee, for me not going down that road,
it's a lot of people that's not going to listen to me. Because you've been down there for that length of time, they'll listen to you, you know. Some will listen, but not all.
Yeah, well, you know, it's a saying that everybody can't, you know, everybody ain't gonna make it to heaven. You can't save everybody.
Right.
You know, and we can save a few.
That's right.
You know, and then they can save a few.
Mm-hmm.
And then the cycle continues. Then, you know, it's got to be casualties of war. You know, either you're going to get down or lay down.
Right.
And that's where we at right now. We at a get down or lay down position right now.
Mm-hmm.
Or we going to be wiped off the face of this earth.
Yeah. It's by design, man. It's not by accident.
Oh, yeah.
It's by complete design. And now that we're aware of the design, we got to stop falling for the same trap. You know, I always ask, where the hell are these kids getting these automatic weapons from? You know, and you got to think, if you think about that, we're not getting them. We're not building, we're not making them. So how are they getting them, man? They're bringing them to us.
Yeah, they're making it, you know, real easy for them to get them. You know, I'm going to tell you a quick story about what a white man told me when I was in prison.
Mm-hmm.
I used to speak to him all the time. You know, I don't have any ill feelings against white people. And he told me, he said, come here. He said, I want to show you something right quick. I promise you this will help you in the long run. You know, and he brought me to his cell, and he said, I'm going to leave the door open so you know I ain't on no bullshit. He said, I want you to look in the mirror. And I looked in the mirror, and he told me, he said, tell me what you see. And I said, I see myself. He said, okay, I'm going to tell you what I see. He said, I see a member of the Ku Klux Klan. And he said, I'm not talking about myself, I'm talking about you. He said, now I want you to think about something. When you walk out of this cell and you take a good look at what you see around you, you see ain't nothing but black men in here. And 95% of y'all are in here for killing each other. Y'all the modern day Ku Klux Klan. And that story still sticks with me today. Because he spoke the truth.
Wow. That story just gave me chills. I swear it just gave me chills all through my body. That's the truth right there. That's the hard fucking truth right there, man. Whew. Guys, damn. What did you say?
I was speechless, man. I mean, what couldn't I say? You know, and then when I went back to my cell and you know, I didn't have to think about it. I knew he was actually telling the truth. 95% of the population, you know, either indirectly or directly has either done something to somebody of the same color.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it used to be drugs, you could say it was, but now we have either killed one another or we've actually robbed or assaulted, but it has always been against the same skin tone. And I'm not telling you to go out here and choose your victim as a white person or anybody else. I'm just simply making a statement.
Just pointing out the lack of love.
Exactly.
There's a lack of love and community for one another.
Exactly. And the only time things gonna change, man, is when we start caring about each other. You don't got to like me, but you know, I need you to care about me. Care about the fact that I got a family at home that I'm trying to make a home to.
Right.
You know, we don't even have to conversate. We don't have to, you know, we don't even have to mingle or none of that. Just care enough about me, man, that you give me a pass to make a home so I can be with my family.
Look at me as a brother.
Exactly.
Not a nigga.
Exactly.
And that probably should give us enough.
Exactly.
Just don't look at me as an enemy. Wow. That's a real powerful message, man. I appreciate you sharing that.
Well,
I appreciate that. I really believe this story reached and helped a lot of people out there. And I appreciate you being brave enough to tell it, man.
Ain't no problem.
All right, well, this has been Studio 125 on Top Media Complex. Thank you guys for coming out. Peace.